Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
You're listening to the Ballroom Network. The following program is intended for all audiences. Welcome to the South Burbs Hitmen podcast with your hosts Joe Mandel, Stevenson Zimmerman, and Chris Gonzalez. We're bringing you the White Sox coverage you need from the perspective of true Southsiders. Grab your Comiskey dog with an ice cold beer and meet us in section 155. Everyone get on your feet for your 2021 South Burbs Hitmen.
That ball hit deep. Way back. You can put it on the board. Yes. Jimenez in the air. Left field. He's your hero tonight. Thanks, Cubs.
Over the head of Jenks. Uribe charges throws. Out! And the White Sox have won the World Series.
Alexei. Yes! 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 History! A perfect game by Mark Burley. And what an unbelievable play by Dwayne White.
First pitch starts now. Hey everybody, and welcome to this edition of the South Burbs Hitmen podcast. I'm your host, Joe Mandel, and I'm joined by my White Sox brother-in-arms. I'm talking about Stevenson Zimmerman and Chris Gonzalez. Gentlemen, how you guys doing right now?
Not good.
Yes. In case anyone's wondering, the Sox are down 3-0 against the Tampa Bay Rays. Rough start to the game, but it can always get better, right? Gonzo, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Things went kind of according to how I predicted things would go last week with the sweep in Detroit and taking 2 or 3 from Toronto. And then, of course, now we're all excited for this huge series with the 2 best teams in the AL. With Tampa and our Sox, and kind of unexpected that, Moncada wouldn't be in the lineup, but I know we'll get to that shortly, but it just makes the lineup, completely different because it leaves Abreu unprotected. So it's kind of interesting, especially when you're facing the best pitcher for the Rays with Glass now. So yeah.
It's definitely a surprise, no doubt there. But before we get to our guest, couple talking points. Of course, the White Sox had a big loss this week. Nick Madrigal gone for at least 60 days. He's got one torn hamstring and one partially torn hamstring. I imagine it's going to be longer than 60 days. Stevenson Zimmerman, quick hit. How big of a blow is this for the team, and can we rebound?
It's more of a hit offensively than defensively for sure. I think we've already kind of seen that to an extent, but they're going to miss his bat. He's a guy that was, a legitimate Rookie of the Year contender. And anytime you're missing a guy of that caliber, you're going to feel it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, he was just getting on fire. But we've got Danny Mendick stepping up big time. Leury Garcia has been playing well as of late, so that's exciting. Another quick hit I want to talk about, of course, is the Sox have had a great week, guys. Took 2 out of 3 from the Blue Jays. And then we swept the Tigers. We took care of business down in Detroit. These are the things we have to do if we want to win this division. There's no doubt about it. And they got, of course, win the big games against the Rays this week. So that's big time as well. Can't wait to see how the rest of this series goes. Slow start today, but doesn't mean we can't pull it off. But Gonzo, I got to get your thoughts on this before we move on. All-Star game leaders were announced today, and no White Sox and also no Rays. The best 2 teams in baseball are not represented in the picks right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the All-Star voting for the updated starters, the NL looks pretty solid, according to what, the fans voted for, but for the AL, it just looks atrocious. Granted, you could probably throw Abreu, Timmy, Moncada, maybe Grandal for 4 starters, but they're gonna have to pick it up because their numbers aren't as comparable to the rest. Maybe Moncada's is, but not the others. So Timmy and Abreu need to step it up because with Bogarts for shortstop, he's pretty hot. Timmy's got to catch up to him, and Abreu's chasing Vlad Jr., who we just saw, and yeah, I mean we're about to find out. And I know Grandal's chasing Salvador Perez for catching, so. It is what it is. I mean, I am sure that when it comes to the pitchers being announced for the All-Star game, that will be represented really well.
For sure.
Especially Hendricks in our bullpen, and heck, maybe we can see Kopech in there for relief pitcher possibly when he comes.
I think
back.
His injury might hurt him a little bit, but we'll see.
Definitely.
Yeah, but other than that, Madrigal, tough injury. He's leading our team in hits. But we got good news today with Eloy Jimenez. Looks like he's 4 weeks away from beginning baseball activities, and then another 2 weeks after that for a rehab. So,
so we should be looking at getting Eloy in about a month and a half to 2 months, and I think that's a beautiful thing right now. So we can't go wrong. It's been a great day of news for the White Sox, and it was a good weekend. Last note I want to touch on: Brian Goodwin's 5 RBI. In the game on Saturday is the most by a White Sox player in a debut since 1920. So great game for him. Let's see if he can keep it going. Excited when you have a young player that kind of gets to come into a spot to help the team. So I tell you what, I was fired up about that game, and a lot of White Sox fans were. And I will tell you what a lot of White Sox fans are also fired up about, guys, and that's the Cuban players that are, developing in the Cuban leagues, and of course the Cuban players on the current roster. And that's what today's show is going to focus around. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest. That's right. We have Phil Selig from CubaDugout.com. Phil, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. I want to give a shout out to a lot of the White Sox fandom have started to follow along with what I've been producing over the last little while. Obviously, a lot of it's very White Sox centric. Just I'll make the argument that it's a dead heat between Houston and the White Sox as to who's typically the most aggressive in bringing the big names in, the big Cuban names in, and both are obviously cultivating that and seeing the results of that at the major league level right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of quality Cuban players in the league, and especially on our White Sox and the Astros. But for our listeners that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and your passion for Cuban baseball.
Yeah, so it started off innocent enough. I am a photographer and videographer, and going back about a decade ago, had a good friend of mine who was always trying to convince me to go down to Cuba, a guy that I actually played baseball with, and he told me, you're gonna love everything about that aspect about the baseball. So, in about 2012, went to the stadium that you see behind me, which is in Cienfuegos, Cuba, home of the Elefantes, and the team that has spawned Jose Abreu and Yoan Moncada, Yasiel Puig, and potentially another young player that I'm sure we'll talk about that's going to be a top prize coming in January. But in this particular game, saw Abreu and was blown away. And then obviously, very shortly after that was in the majors, and kind of from there to here as the internet has grown, specifically in Cuba. My photos really started to gain traction and really started building relationships first online. And then as I got to the island, more and more players wanted me to get photos of them and so that they could share and see. And so every opportunity I get back to the island, building more relationships and trying to see as much and capture as much baseball as possible. And through CubaDugout.com, writing about a lot of things, my experience, some of the players that I have seen and captured, and my thoughts and where I think they might be headed.
That's amazing, and it's especially exciting when you get to see all this young talent, coming up and starting to hit it big. So I can't only imagine what that's like to see. So that's totally cool. But this White Sox team is a hot pot of Cuban talent, as you mentioned. Why don't you talk a little bit about Jose Abreu, Yoan Moncada, Yasmani Grandal, Luis Robert, however you want to say it. Just how special is the White Sox core of talent from what you've seen come out of Cuba?
Yeah, so they've done a fantastic job. And I mean, I don't want to call them misses. Obviously, they've signed quite a few players. I mean, if you look at their history, it goes all the way back to Minnie Minoso. But in the more modern times, probably the first kind of linchpin when they signed was Alexei Ramirez. But even obviously El Duque and Jose Contreras were big parts of that 05 championship team. So, they've scouted very well and gone with more mature players to this point, or at least the guys that have had that impact. Obviously, getting a little bit younger now with the new signing rules. But yeah, there's no doubt there for a number of people, Jose Abreu is there's an argument of who is the best Cuban hitter of all time. That gets split a couple different ways between players that played predominantly. So Orestes Kindelan, who you can see on the screen, is considered a big-time slugger. But people will lean a little bit more towards an Abreu who's had success both in the National Series, but obviously, bookended. So he won an MVP in Cuba and wins the MVP last year. And so people have a tendency to put a little bit more weighting on that. But it's great. Cuban baseball fans, similar to American, are big into stats. They're big into those discussions. They're big into those arguments. But yeah, the White Sox obviously with Abreu, and then they bring over Moncada. The two of them did play together in Cuba with the Elefantes. And so they've done a good job there. Obviously, they acquired Moncada by a different route, as the Red Sox assigned him originally. But they've built an impressive pipeline, and more hits than misses, I would say.
No, that's really exciting to hear and to see, frankly. And, for you, I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you do a lot of photography and have been approached to have some of your photos on baseball cards. Talk a little bit about that and how surreal that process is.
Yeah, so one of my photos, I believe, which will be appearing for Norge Vera, the young pitching prospect that recently signed. So I did get to see him a couple of years ago. They did tour Canada, and this was before he entered into the MLB stream. So, and it was actually on a lark because he didn't pitch when I did get to see him, but he was warming up in the bullpen actually with my friend who's the catcher for that squad, and a chap named Frank Morion. And so it's just by kind of happenstance that I captured that photo of him, whereas I was more focusing on in that particular series on Yoelqui Cespedes, and captured some great photos. Originally, I think one of my photos was supposed to be used, but I think it might have got pushed aside because they couldn't superimpose the Sox logo on it. So a little bit disappointed that way, but the photos have circulated, and actually it's been a great way for me to connect with some of those players as well. I mean, some of them I've met in person. I don't want to overstate what that relationship is for the sake of, just a gringo in the dugout with a camera at that point, but I've kept in touch with the guys, and some of them have reached out and to use some of the footage. And so I'm really, really looking forward that hopefully paths will cross down the road and be able to chronicle that journey kind of from the very beginning to hopefully a big peak for some of the younger players.
Awesome. Yeah, that's totally cool. And I can imagine that's probably, seeing that possibly be on a baseball card, it's just got to be like the best feeling in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it to one of my co-hosts now to take it away from me. Chris Gonzalez, I'll let you take things away, my friend. Chris is on mute. Let me take him off. Oh, he is stuck on mute. You got to mute. There you go.
Yep, gotcha. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. And once again, Phil, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us.
Thanks for having me.
I've been really excited for this interview just because I know from our previous interviews that we've had, I've always had questions about the Cuban prospects, and, asking Merck or Chuck Garfien from NBC don't really have that knowledge, that you do from being there and seeing them and taking the photography, like you said. My first question as I go here is a two-part question for you, Phil. And sure. From Cuba to the States, what differences of criticism from their progression have you seen in Abreu and Moncada? And criticism, like just challenges that they face, and also, what successes have they had in the big leagues?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously their paths are a little bit different in that Abreu was a much more established star both in Cuba and then had an instant impact and came here, whereas Moncada obviously is a number one prospect in the world and trying to figure out when they said, was he going to be a shortstop, I didn't believe that at first. He actually played a lot of second base in Cuba and originally came up as a second baseman, but obviously has the tools to play third base. So, it's been a little bit slower. I know he did have a big 2019, and so it's obviously it's been some ups and downs for him. Really good to see the patience develop this year. And so even though I know that the power's down a little bit, that he's finally making good on being a little bit more consistent. That the big issue with him obviously was always strikeouts, and they're still a little bit higher than you'd like, but he's cutting down on that and showing that absence. So yeah, it's very interesting. Like I said, the two were teammates for a short period in Cuba and play very differently. But I think even Moncada and many of the other players have stated how important that Abreu was in when they first came to the States, kind of learning some of that process, but also their adaptation with the Sox and kind of their approach in being a professional.
Okay. Also, with Jimenez and Robert thriving in the MLB, at least what we got to see what Jimenez in 19, but in Robert we saw a little bit in that shortened COVID season. But what do you really foresee from the both of them in our short future here?
Yeah, so Robert, I always struggle with what the proper pronunciation is. I think everybody does, but another kid that I did see in Cuba, and then saw him here in Canada in 2016. So I've chronicled him on the way through. I did a profile video on him, and I want to be very careful with this. I say it in the video that the tools remind me of a right-handed Griffey Jr. Now, that's big praise, but I think the way that he approaches it and how everything he does with ease and how smooth it is very impressive. And so if he can come back and stay healthy, that's his ceiling. I'm not in the prognostication business that far to say that he's going to make it there, but I see the tools are there. And one of the biggest things that I saw that I hope maybe last year in such a short season was a little bit weird, got off hot and then slowed down. Obviously started to rebound a little bit in the playoffs, but if you had gotten to play a full 162, we have seen one of the big things that I saw, and as I chronicled him in the minors, even watching live, was him making adjustments mid at bat. So I do have some footage of him where he gets fooled very easily early on breaking balls, but kind of stays in there, adjusts, and so a couple times I saw him in his minor league player of the year season there, you could see not just the tools but the approach. So that's where I think his ceiling is going to be very very high, and as long as he can come back healthy and make the adjustments, I think the sky's the limit for him.
Okay. Real quick to go off of what I asked you, I didn't really have this in my notes, but since talking to you, it sparks my mind. But Eloy Jimenez, what have you seen from his fielding when he was in Cuba? Obviously the world sees it, in the MLB, but what did you really see beforehand?
So, for Robert or for Jimenez, because for Robert, actually one of the cool things, or what was interesting is that he played on a team very young, and that actually won back-to-back championships. So he debuted about 16, 17 and was actually forced to play left field. In right field was actually Adolis Garcia that's lighting it up for Texas now, and so the gentleman that was in center field was actually a chap I was chatting with last week, who was a longtime Cuban veteran. So it's interesting sometimes that with the players that and actually maybe a perfect parallel would be Alexei Ramirez actually didn't play much shortstop in Cuba due to either organizational depth or when he was with the national team, and so Alexei Ramirez was playing a lot of center field and almost forced to play boy shortstop when he made it to the majors. So but the tools were real. There's no doubt about that. And so it's just obviously the reps in center, but he played a lot of his time in the corners just due to the depth situation for the rosters.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, and I guess I realized that Eloy is Dominican, but even with Robert being in Cuba, I was wondering, even if you maybe by chance saw Eloy beforehand.
No. But no, obviously, the power with him is prodigious, and I know, I hope it's not foretelling, kind of the way that he got hurt. But also where, obviously if you can get enough innings out of him in left field, and then Robert, same thing. Robert, if can cover for a lot of that ground. And so there's no doubt. I think the White Sox are on the right trajectory there. It's just a matter of getting healthy. So.
Gotcha. All right, now real quick chat before I turn it over here. Please get your answers in the chat for Phil, as we will be getting to our chat questions here shortly. And now I'm going to toss it over to Zim right above me as he can fire away.
Cool. All right, well, let's just go right into it. The guy that we've avoided talking about, right? The guy that we all have on the tip of our tongues, Oscar Colas. He's all but a sure thing to the White Sox at this point. He's
sounds that way.
Posting Instagram photos in Sox gear, taking batting practice in Sox gear. He looks like he wants to come here for sure. But if he does come to the Sox, right, it's, I believe, not until next season he starts playing. And then how soon would you think he'd make it to the majors? And could you just give us like your quick little 2-minute scouting breakdown on Oscar Colas, the Cuban Ohtani?
Yeah, absolutely. And so also one of the great voices that breaks a lot of the news is a chap named Francis Romero, who reports on with pretty good certainty. Anytime he says someone's signing somewhere, you can pretty much take it to the bank. So Colas, yeah. So the Ohtani talk is, I understand why. Like the tools are in there, and theoretically, you want to unlock that. I don't know how real the pitching element is, for the sake that it's been more just tinkering with it. He didn't pitch much in Cuba. He pitched a little bit when he was with, because he was allowed to go and play in Japan with the SoftBank Hawks there, which is an actual dynasty over there. They've won multiple championships and have done a very great job of bringing in Cubans there as well. So he's shown some flash. I've done a profile video on him, and so yeah, we see him pitching as I say that. That I like his swing is as a lefty, is to this point very, very much inside out, but with quick hands that he can turn on an inside pitch. I've said now part of it is the concern was over his conditioning. That seems to be improving. If you follow him on social media, it looks like he's putting in the work. He's getting better. I've seen reports that say that report him as a center field prospect. Not really. He's probably, I mean, the arm is real, obviously. He's probably right field, first base kind of hitter. I've seen in his swing mechanic, I see a little bit of Pablo Sandoval, and like I said, he's been putting in the work, so at least he's not mimicking him in body type like some people feared he could for a while there. But he's got a very solid approach at the plate. I think that for him, what I hope happens is as he strengthens, doesn't get a little bit too pull happy versus learning where to do that, because in a lot of the highlights you can see that he's got a very natural inside out approach, but still hits the ball very hard the other way. So I think if he can maintain that and can keep up with his conditioning, could be a very nice find, very nice piece. But I think his future is probably as a corner outfielder, or who knows, maybe he could be the successor to Abreu at first base someday.
Awesome. I mean, that's all great info. And like, we've been learning more and more about Colas ever since that report came out that he was likely to go to the Sox. And again, that's just awesome stuff to add to what we already know now. Can you give a few other guys though, that you think might be impact major leaguers someday? Guys like Vera, Tatis, Cespedes that have been projected there, or maybe some other guys that are still in the Cuban leagues that, you see coming up?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, and there was a lot of news. There's going to be a couple. I guess I'll go to the guys from Cuba, closer to Cuba right now. So the Olympic qualifiers were just happening down in Florida, and one of the players that left veritably the moment they landed in Miami is a youngster named Cesar Prieto, also from Cienfuegos. So he's a young second baseman that I think is going to get a lot of buzz come January if he kind of establishes his residency, is declared a free agent. This is a chap who won the Cuban batting title last year with a 403 average at 21 years of age and set a Cuban record with a 45 game hitting streak. So he's a contact machine.
Yeah.
He's a little slight at this point and kind of reminds me a little bit of an Altuve or a Dustin Pedroia. Again, that's lofty. If he could reach that, but I think the biggest tool that he'll be bringing to the table is contact, which is obviously declining in the majors overall. So he's been a contact machine that way. So if Colas is commanding $2.7 million, as much as Prieto actually probably would be entering with a better pedigree for the sake of, he won the Rookie of the Year a few years back and set the rookie hits record, which was held by Kendrys Morales, another obviously MLB name for quite some time. So he left the team when they landed, and then at the end of it is a young reliever named Andy Rodriguez. He was the closer for Industriales, who are from Havana, basically the Yankees of Cuban baseball. And he's put up some dynamite numbers in the closer's role again. He's 22, 23. So he's going to try his luck. The pitching prospects have really lagged behind for whatever reason. The batters, we really haven't seen outside of, say, a Chapman. We've had a little bit of a gap, and as we mentioned, the Sox kind of had a couple of those players in for a bit there, and that we would typically see more mature starters kind of come over. So if in this new pipeline, some of the younger arms, which the average velocity in Cuba is much lower. It's probably about mid 80s, and so we did see recently, and actually it's the good thing is it's much easier to watch games now on YouTube. The World Baseball Softball Council actually has high def streams of a lot of key games, and so what we saw happen in the playoffs was a lot of veteran players, a lot of veteran pitchers, all like 35 and above that looked like you could time them with a sundial, but really knew how to pitch. So from an entertainment perspective, it's kind of a throwback that way, and that's one of the things that I enjoyed. But at the same time, anytime a young pitcher who and Andy Rodriguez kind of tops out 94, 95, that stands out, and so be intriguing to see if he can make that impact. But I'm sorry to get into guys that are kind of in the pipeline right now. Obviously, Yoelqui Cespedes, as mentioned, is a player that I've captured many times over the years, and the tools are real. I just want to give the caveat that if people are expecting him to be his brother, that Yoenis was probably the rawest pure talent to ever come out of Cuba, and as a power prospect was probably like the purest power hitter to come out of there. So there were obvious taxes to pay with kind of the way that he plays the game overall and goes about things. So Yoelqui though has some of those tools. The arm's real, the range is real. He's a little bit smaller, but is bulked up, but really good, mild mannered kid, and hard working. So I think that his ceiling might not be as high as Yoenis, but I think in terms of if he gets and sticks, could be a much have a sustainable career and be a useful piece. I see a lot of Melky Carrera in him is a good comp with maybe potential higher upside, but we shall see. But that's worst case scenario. I think he could be a great I don't want to say fourth outfielder, but is he going to be a superstar? Is he on that level with Robber? Maybe not, but I think he's a nice young piece, and especially I look at it through the lens as well of you look at how much these players cost compared to what they used to. For an organization taking a shot on it, makes sense, especially with the White Sox having that pipeline and knowing that they've kind of got that infrastructure once the guys get here and make that transition for them a little bit easier.
Real quick follow-up on that, Phil. I know Cespedes has been having some visa issues and he's been playing extended spring training games, which the reason he's doing that is because he can't get paid for those. Curious if you have any info about that and when we might see him actually start playing in the minor leagues.
Yeah, no. So been a little bit mum on that. I did reach out to him, and so I mean, obviously he's busy there, and there hasn't been much chatter. I'm not certain where that's being applied through, because if he had established his residency either in the Dominican, but I know he was spending time in the Bahamas, so I don't know if it's an issue with the Bahamian consulate or if that's the path that would go. So unfortunately, I don't have much information on that, but did see recently, obviously, that he is down in Arizona in extended spring training, so at least he's getting those reps in. As much as obviously you want to see the kid playing at that top level. The fact that the White Sox had the confidence that if they can get him there to start at AA, I think is a good sign. But by the same token, I don't look at that as necessarily a bad thing. It'll work. If he is down here, I don't think we were going to see him in the majors this year. So maybe just being able to get his work in, because I mean he's missed about a year and a half. Now based on when he left Cuba there. And so maybe kind of get an opportunity just to get back into the swing of things and without a lot of pressure might be good. And then if he can kind of round out or be in time to either maybe even escalate to AAA by the end of the year, I think would be a great trajectory for him.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was curious myself.
No, that's great info though. That's great info, because I was getting a little curious about that myself with, we hear a lot about it and then kind of don't get any of the finer details. That's great info. But now just to bring it back, sort of small scale, sort of, a little bit more personal here. Is there just like one tip that you could give the three of us here and all of our listeners out there that like would help us kind of see some of these more scout type things when we're watching the game? Some of these ideas that you look for when you watch a game and what we might look for, like perhaps at the MLB Futures game coming up next month.
Yes. So one of the things that I want to say is sometimes is a little bit easier in watching the Cuban game is that name recognition is a big thing. So Cespedes, and that can go two ways. I mean, so obviously you've got the players that have gone on, but on the island itself, and as I've immersed myself in the history, you can see who's kind of coming up through that pipeline and comes from good stock, comes from good pedigree. And so one of the things that Cuba has to be very careful with and just in terms of how they manage that squad and how they manage their resources. Because I don't get political over things. It's tough. I mean, it's an amazing culture where obviously a lot of guys, increasing numbers of guys are getting out, but at the same time they all love to go back when they can. So I would love to say that I've got a fantastic scouting eye, except that it's pretty apparent in the layer of the league now when you can see who the kids that are the ones to watch. And so that definitely makes it easier. But then every now and then I watch it. I do watch it as a fan, and over time, because I've been able to become friends with a lot of the players that are playing on the island. I watch them as well, and love to see them succeed. So I don't pick favorites like in any time if I'm watching a game, but it's pretty cool that the number of people that either I've met in person or gotten to spend some time with, or have followed me, and to see them succeed in the national series is really cool. And ultimately, what I want to see every Cuban player get the opportunity to play at the top level that they can. So for some, if that's the majors, I mean, you never want to dissuade as much as it's still they're taking a chance in leaving, and it is a delicate situation there with that political scenario. But at the same time, a lot more players are being granted the opportunity to go play in Japan, still play in a high level, make good money, and actually still make life-altering money and bring it back and to have an impact in their communities in Cuba. More guys are playing in Mexico and being lent out to leagues there. And so even though that scale of money is much lesser, if a guy's making somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000 a month and able to bring most of that back to Cuba, that's still a great opportunity for them to improve their lives and to really to try and accumulate some wealth that isn't always an opportunity.
Cool. Great stuff. I just want to say thanks again for your time and for all this great information that you've given us. I'm going to send it over to Joe now for all the chat questions. Joe?
Yeah, so we've got a handful of chat questions here for you, Phil. Some of the people in the chat room got a couple questions for you, so let me see if I can go back. This is actually in relation to kind of what you were just talking about, but Santiago in the chat room says, do Cuban players forfeit some of their salaries to the Cuban government?
So the major league players do not. My understanding is, though, that, for instance, there's one player, Alfredo Despain, who's one of the bigger sluggers. He's been over in Japan making millions of dollars and able to bring most of that back to Cuba. My understanding is he only gives up about 10%. So he's it is a good path for some guys to be able to stay in Cuba, but play at a top level and make, as I said, life-altering money.
Yeah, that's
better.
That's amazing.
Better tax rate than playing in the MLB, it sounds like.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Better tax rate than what we're paying here in Canada too. So,
this is more of an obscure question, but I'm curious if you even have an answer. What is the best Cuban restaurant in the Chicagoland area? Have you been to a Cuban restaurant around here, Phil?
I have not. So I've only ever been to Chicago once, and don't boo me. I spent some time in Wrigleyville, and it was fantastic. That was,
all right.
was quite a long time ago. I see. I'm intrigued by Cuban restaurants. I know how they sell those because one of the things people will tell you is the food's not good down there. There's a caveat on that. There's a caveat on that. The Cuban seafood is fantastic. So if anybody ever gets a chance to go down and get fresh lobster or get fresh shrimp, it's fantastic. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a struggle.
Totally understand. Yeah, I could think of maybe one place in the Chicagoland area in the Loop. There's a place called Cafecito. You can get amazing Cuban style sandwiches, and like the Cuban tuna salad is my favorite, Of course, you get a Cuban sandwich, not the most Cuban thing in the world, but still delicious. Let's see what else we got here in the chat room. I got more. It's more of an opinion question about the All-Star game, but Adam Shaw in the chat wants to know, does Grandal have a case versus Perez to make the All-Star game this season?
Yeah, so this Grandal is a topic that's been gaining some traction in the Cuban sphere as well, and so he's an interesting character, and we were talking a little bit about this beforehand. One of the things I find fascinating is Cuba has actually produced some great catchers, but more for the national series and national level. So Grandal is really the only kind of Cuban catcher of pedigree of MLB, but with the caveat that he left a little bit younger and moved when he was 10. So it's a little bit tough. I know the debate with his average, but he's adding value in his walk rate and Salvador Perez, I think, has had a little bit of a bounce back season. He's actually, I guess he's a little bit of the inverse of that, where his average is actually a little bit higher this year, but he's a guy that fits into the adage that you don't walk your way off the island. So is there a case? Yeah, I guess it's a sabermetrics battle. I know that I don't want to age myself. I lean a little bit more on some of the older metrics. Like I get it. I'm not the one saying bench him. Like if I watch a lot of Yankees, I watch a lot of Gary Sanchez, and trust me, right now I think I'd take Grandal over that potentially, for the sake that I like that he keeps the chain moving. He is getting on base, but yeah, I can see where people might end up with a hairstyle like mine, looking at that batting average.
Yeah, no, it's my hair. My hair is definitely going to get there too. Watching that batting average, but he has been swinging a hot stick lately, hitting a couple homers. Hopefully that swing gets itself worked out a little bit. But Phil, we really appreciate your time tonight, joining us, talking all things Cuban baseball, all things White Sox. We got to get you down here to the south
absolutely.
side.
I'd love to.
We'd love to meet you at a game, grab a beer. We try to catch as many games as we can, so we got to give you the full south side experience. And who knows, man? Maybe we have some playoffs down there this year.
Absolutely. We're still, we're still waiting to see what the other side of 2020 and 2021 brings to us. But there, like I said, there's increasing synergy with Chicago. Like I said, a lot of the fans have started following what I'm doing there, and great to be a part of that conversation. And would love to get back to Chicago and get some more images of the great players that are there. And yeah, absolutely get to a game and have a couple pints on, as Lord knows, after last year we need it. So
yes,
we needed something fierce, no doubt about it. And before we let you go, Phil, why don't you tell our listeners, first off, where they can find you, a little bit about your website, and kind of some of the stuff you got coming up the rest of the year.
Yeah, perfect. So check out CubaDugout.com, where I do write a couple articles every week. I do focus a little bit more, or at least the springboard to a lot of what I write about is typically my photography and my videos, but expanding a little bit upon that with some of the young character profiles on some of the kids as more footage becomes available that's out there and kind of connecting with. I do try and stay more with the kids that I've seen in real life. But so that's there. You can check me out on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Actually, Instagram is probably the more unique feed that I have as a photographer, where it's a little bit more linear that way. But fundamentally, pretty much all the photos I share there are my own, and so. All over trying to grow what we can do and just hoping to get back to Cuba soon. They've been struggling with Corona too, but it looks like hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel is coming. And yeah, working on hoping I'm going to have some big news, working on some potential cool projects down there. But there's some definite roadblocks in the way of that. But keep my fingers crossed. So.
Absolutely. All great, exciting stuff. Keep up the great work. All of our listeners and viewers out there, make sure you follow Phil on Twitter at Cuba Dugout. Also hit him on Instagram, YouTube, and what's the last one I'm forgetting? Facebook, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
The almighty trio. But make sure you give Phil a follow. Check out his stuff. Again, Phil, we cannot thank you enough for joining us tonight and keeping you up a little bit later, but appreciate you joining us up from I want to say up north.
Yeah, well, it is,
up north with us down south.
Yeah, perfect. It's don't speak much Spanish, but vamos los Medias Blancos. So
yes, let's go White Sox.
So.
I appreciate it, Phil. Again, thank you so much, and maybe we'll have you on again in the near future.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
All right, Phil. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, guys. How about that? Phil Selig giving us all the Cuban information we could ever ask for. What a great guest. And guys, make sure you go check out his stuff. It's just unbelievable. He's got some great player profiles on YouTube. Of course, his Instagram feed is dynamite. It's all good stuff, guys. Immediate takeaways, Zim and Gonzo. Zim, I'll let you go first.
I mean, just right off the top of my head, what a wealth of knowledge that interview gave us. I mean, so much good information about guys in the current Sox system, guys on the current Sox roster, and guys still in Cuba. I didn't expect to gain that much from it. Really more just a surface level touch on everything. And it was awesome to get that kind of deep dive, really get that background on Oscar Colas, who, I think Sox fans have every right to be excited about. So, and it sounds like, Phil agrees.
Yeah. And the Cespedes info about the visa was very interesting to me. So we'll see how that plays out. Gonzo, last comments before we take a quick commercial break.
Yeah, just all the way around here. Colas, from his player profile, and he highlighted it saying that he was more of the, he's going to be more known for his bat than on the mound, it seems. Which is going to be interesting because we already, you have Andrew Vaughn already at first base, DH, and with Mercedes. It'll be interesting to see where he's going to fit in. And they did say outfield too, but I don't really see him being a fit in the outfield with how things are at the moment. But with the others, even Cespedes, I know Chuck Garfine's podcast with Jake Berger, at the end of it, Jake Berger highlighted on Cespedes because you got to see him in the co-op league in Arizona and play with Cespedes.
Oh, yeah.
And Cespedes, Jake said he's flat out a stud. And he said one of the home runs that he hit, you could see how much power he has just because it literally went 2 feet above the second baseman, but went all the way to center and hit right off the batter's eye out there. And just ridiculous power from him. So it's going to be one of those things. It's like, he said he could be like a fourth outfielder. So it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of fourth outfielder and a quality outfielder. But even with like Vieira, and his player profile, he said that, you see a lot of life on that fastball, but the off speed with the slider, isn't really there. But maybe with the nutrition and, assist programs that we have with the team, that maybe, that just helps him that much more, get, a little bit more nastier with his arsenal and just that, the nutrition with the body itself, just, becoming in better shape. But even that could help Cespedes too. So it's going to be a very interesting situation when these guys are coming up and where they're going to fit. And that kind of highlights too, maybe the trade deadline of us going more after rentals because we already have our spots pretty lined up at the moment.
That's awesome, brother. I'm excited about it too. And we thank everyone for sticking around with us. We are reaching about a little over the halfway point of the show. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back after this message from our barroom sponsor. South Burbs Hitmen will be right back.
Look, I don't mean any disrespect. He just didn't play that well, not for a guy of his caliber.
If they don't run the ball here, I'm going to vomit. I swear to God.
I don't really have any recollection of that at all, but I guess perhaps I blacked it all out.
They won, but I'm going to be miserable all week because they stunk. On the latest, sportscaster and her son, Peggy Kaczynski, interviews Dr. Scott Goldman, who administered an intelligence test to quarterback Justin Fields.
Okay, so Dr. Goldman, hang on one second because we've been talking about how you're protecting the confidentiality of your clients, and we just found out from Justin Fields' agent that it's okay to talk about Justin's scores. This is exciting to us. Now we can finally say yay or nay to what we have heard hearsay in some other reports. So let's talk about Justin Fields.
South Burbs Hitmen. That's right, and we are back from our commercial break. And before we get into the rest of the show, we have our correspondent at Guaranteed Rate Field. That's right. Our co-host, Vinny Parisi, is live in the stands. Let's bring him in. Vinny, what's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? How we doing? We got Anthony here. We're doing well. We're down 3-2. It's getting real loud in here.
I bet, man. You're seeing probably the matchup of the season so far. Talk a little bit about the electricity in the park right now.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it's like a playoff game because, I mean, it's early June, but Tampa Bay and Chicago, these two teams could meet each other in some meaningful games down the line here. So seeing the two teams with the best record play each other at this point in the season, it's really cool. I heard on the radio on the way here, it's the first time since 1990 that the two best teams in the league met at Guaranteed Rate Field.
Wow.
It's hard to believe at this point of the season, man. But, I know it's probably really hard to hear me, so I'm going to be as loud as I can.
Yeah.
But we're just talking Cuban baseball here. How are Abreu and Moncada? No Moncada in the lineup. I guess that's where I want to start. Were you surprised that there's no Moncada tonight?
Yeah, I heard he's sick. So that's a little poopy that he's not in the lineup right now. But Abreu, he's making some nice plays over at first. He's had a couple opportunities to kind of drive in some runs here today, and he hasn't yet. But we know that our second in the league in RBIs captain will come through for us when we need it most.
Yes.
No doubt, man. And Goodwin had a heck of a catch in this game.
Did
you get to see that?
Yeah, this place kind of exploded when he made the catch because it didn't look like he was going to catch it in real time, and then he kind of got his glove out last second, so it was really cool to see.
That's awesome, man. They're fighting, they're clawing their way back in this one. Gonzo or Zim, you got anything for Vinny before we let him get back to enjoying the madness of the battle on 35th?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
No, Vinny, have a great time. Happy you're there to represent us.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah.
I will be full-time starting next week, and I can't be more excited to join you boys.
That's right, man. Of course, if you guys don't know, Vinny will be joining us as a full-time member. We're so excited to have him on board with us. And we got James Fagan coming from The Athletic next week, so that's going to be a dynamite show. Woo. Vinny, we're looking forward to having you. And Vinny, thanks again for giving us a live report from the Guaranteed Rate Field.
Absolutely. Talk to you boys later.
All right, Vinny. Thanks, buddy.
See ya.
How about that, guys? We get a live on-site reporter. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, this is a unbelievable matchup and best matchup of the season, really, for our White Sox to this moment with Lynn and Glass now going at it. And, I think this is a pretty similar matchup to that Toronto. I think, it's going to be between Toronto and Tampa Bay out there for that division. And this is good competition, especially with what we've been seeing lately. We've been playing under 500 teams. So it's nice to get some competition, see how the boys are really going at it. And granted, it's tough. We're missing three big bats in that lineup, at least two big power bats and one, with Madrigal with getting on base. It's, you can't use that as an excuse, next man up. We got to give them our all.
Next man up.
We got the pitching staff to compete with them. So, especially with Houston at the back half of the week, this is going to be a good eye-opening experience for our guys, and a good, I know a lot of people have been giving us criticism saying that our record's 11-13 versus teams over 500, and now we have a crack to see if we can get above 500, for this week, and then we know where they're going to be at, once we face more teams like of that nature upcoming here shortly.
It's a measuring stick week for sure for this White Sox team. And I tell you what, I can't wait to see what happens. But before we get to the rest of the segments in the show, guys, I want to bring up a topic that we've been talking about the last couple weeks, and it's a topic that just won't go away. Zim, you saw a report come out, so I'll let you mostly speak to it. But I do want to talk a little bit about the report that came out about the enforcing of the doctoring of baseballs and how the league is going to handle it. Zim, do you have any immediate thoughts to the report that came out, and do you want to quickly explain it to what some of our listeners?
Yeah, so just real quick, the quote that I saw come out about it says here, umpires will start checking pitchers at least twice per game and will examine relievers at least once during each contest. A position player will only be checked if umpires believe him to be altering the ball on his pitcher's behalf. If the umpire finds illicit substances on the pitcher, his equipment will be confiscated and he will be ejected from the game per Rosenthal. Also, the player in question will be subjected to a 10-game suspension. So
did they define what that means exactly?
So that is just a 10-game suspension, which for a starting pitcher will be 2 to 3 starts, depending on where it falls in the rotation. It doesn't really feel like much more than a slap on the wrist to starters, but a reliever that gets caught with this is going to be, greatly impacted. 10 games is enough to affect your season statistics. 10 games is enough to potentially, depending on your usage, take you out of qualifying for certain stat leaderboards and incentives. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly where I was going with it. So, we'll see how the enforcement comes. There's going to be an official memo released next Monday. So of course we'll be talking about this some more then, I'm sure, once that official memo is released from MLB. But it's something to definitely keep an eye on because, as we've been talking for, it feels like about a month now, probably.
At least
it's not going away. These pitchers are clearly using various different substances, whether it's just pine tar or rosin or something more tacky than that. And I don't remember the actual name of the product. I think it's Spider Tack is what it's called.
Spider Tack. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter really what it is. I've seen guys use Vaseline to get it to slip out of their hand a little bit, rather than gripping it even more. So there's all kinds of different ways. Like Slavko talked about last week, the catcher that jacks it into his shin guards to try and scrape it up a little bit. I mean, I know it wasn't the most effective thing, but when I played, pitchers used to grow out their thumbnails so that they could scratch up the ball with their thumbnail. I mean, is something like that going to be? It's where's the line going to be?
You never know, man.
That's the big thing. If a guy's just scratching up the ball with his thumbnail and picking off one of the laces, how do you really punish him for that? I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough to enforce, but I want to briefly touch on Alex Rodriguez's comments. I don't know if you guys saw them or heard of them, but he said he thinks it's strictly a coincidence that baseball's spin rates have gone down since umpires have started looking for this stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a coincidence at all. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But Gonzo, I got to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous too. Coming from A-Rod, he should know better. I mean, come on now. He was in the game. He knew this. He knew this at hand, playing in the game, and especially during the steroid era, when he was first coming up, But enough of A-Rod. My thoughts on this. This is interesting. What Steve Stone brought up last week in the broadcast. His solution was to come up with a solution that everyone can use, and I thought that was worthwhile, whatever they come up with, because I know Bauer created his special solution, so I think they can come up all together to use whatever substance, but just one substance, if they can ever enforce that. But I'm okay with the rosin bag, because that's just basically chalk to dry your hand. Like,
yeah,
I don't see any issue with that. It's these other Spider Tack solutions that
pine tar.
The rosin bag, in my opinion, the rosin bag needs to be used correctly. Chris, you and I played with rosin bags. I'm sure just as well as I do how easy it is to, wipe some sweat on your hand, get it under your hat, and then go touch that rosin bag, and just how much rosin will come off onto your hand. So I think it's okay to use, but within reason.
Right. Now, I've never had to use it. Maybe once I've used it.
Okay.
When it was raining or something. But I'm not sure if you guys saw the comment that Pete Alonso from the Mets, he was all about safety and agreeing with the pitchers that should be used. But this situation where, the Spider Tack, it's not about safety. These guys can get a good grip on the baseball without these sticky substances.
Right.
That's why they have the rosin bag for. I just thought that was ridiculous. But again, I know Vinny brought up last week in his podcast with Cross on Talk. He was basically saying, bring the comparisons of talent with Garrett Cole, when he was on the Pirates. Yeah, he was an all-star talent, but up until he got that trade, to Houston, that's probably when he started using, the sticky substances, and that's where he went from all-star to Cy Young candidate. Like I said, going back to last week, guys, I want to see the natural talent get to Cooperstown. I don't want to see all these guys. You see the struggling with the steroids with Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. these guys are having trouble getting to Cooperstown, getting voted in. And I as a fan, I want to see the guys with the natural talent get in. And I don't want to see any, cheating ways to get in there as a pitcher. Especially with the guys that are there, they're the best in the world. They don't need another, substance to get them over the top to get into the Hall of Fame. At least. It shouldn't. That's why what's left of integrity in the game, especially getting into Hall of Fame, people can question how easy it is to get voted in. There needs to be some integrity left. That's really all I have to really say about it. And I really hope that they come to a solution here. And I know this is going to be an experiment with how they're going to force it for now, but they need to get to a point where they have a baseline here. And we're going to have to see. I mean, it is what it is at this moment. I'm just really hoping that, this kind of smoothens out per se.
It is what it is, man. But I appreciate you guys giving me your thoughts. But let's go ahead and move into the rest of the show, into the segmented part of the show. And this is the part of the show we're going to talk about our buddy TLR and his decision-making. So let's jump into this segment right now. That's right. This is the segment of the show called LaRussa's Locker. We're going to talk about Tony and all the good stuff and all the bad he's done this week. Gentlemen, you got anything you want to lead off with? Stevenson Zimmerman, I'll let you start things off. What did you like and what didn't you like from our buddy Tony this week?
Oh, lots. I mean, not a lot, but lots at the same time. His usage of Liam Hendricks, I think, is a good place to start. It's something we talked about last week as well. It's something we've kind of talked about all season. He threw him out there, and immediately there was a rain delay. And I know a lot of us questioned whether or not he should go back in after that rain delay. And there's not really a clear explanation in the rule book about it. So I know, left off our discussion we were assuming he was required to stay in for 3 batters, whether there was a rain delay or not. So that question, I don't know. It was questionable to put him in that particular situation to me, because it felt like you could feel the rain delay coming at any given moment. To me, I don't know. It felt like he could have appealed to the umpires and basically said, hey, can we just, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing. Because it also feels weird that they would call a rain delay with, in a 2-run game in the bottom of the 9th. I'm just kind of rambling, and I'm gonna let Chris take it away, because it's just that one situation in particular. I'm not sure if it comes into the rule book or if it comes into Tony that was in question there.
Well, I pulled up the rule, Gonzo, for you real quick, the 3-batter minimum rule. And I think it's important that we break this down. Gonzo, I'll get your thoughts on it. But, of course, he threw one pitch before the rain started to come down like crazy. But let's look at this for a second, Gonzo. There's nothing in here that mentions anything about a rain delay for this rule. So what's your interpretation here?
So, yeah, I mean, it's three outs or end of inning. Or you face 3 batters or end of inning. Doesn't matter about the rain delay. That's just the ruling of it. Now, I can see why Liam is frustrated, because a delay of game with the weather, that's umpire's discretion to call to get everyone off the field for to cause the delay, and then it's up to for this case they're in Detroit, so it'd be Detroit organization's call for if they're going to wait it out or just postpone it or whatnot. And that's also connected with the MLB, talks with the MLB as well. But I can see why he's frustrated in this situation, because he shouldn't have even gotten to this point with the rain.
Look how hard that's coming down, man.
Yeah, and I think he did. He did like the umpire, like come, yeah, there he is, right there. You're like, come on, man. Like seriously, like, because the umpires, they just want to get out, get this game over with. But it's just unplayable at this part, at this moment in the game, and you just have to have better discretion to, allow call time and get everyone off the field and get into,
there it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, you see the frustrations, and it's sad because then when they come back, Liam gives up that 2-run shot, tie the game up. I mean, regardless of the delay, I think it was 49 minutes. So I mean, he probably was still keeping the arm loose. I don't know what Detroit's like under, in the clubhouse, if they have any, flat ground or batting cages that they keep the pitchers warm. But I'm sure that they do, and that he was keeping his arm, warm. But it's just a situation where it's unfortunate for him because he gives up that 2-run shot to a rookie. But I agree with LaRussa. This is a safe situation, regardless division opponent. These are key wins for your team. I don't care what the record is. Those division records matter at the end of the year. So I don't see this as a con for Tony. Liam needs to get the save. He didn't. Tied ball game, goes into extras. And then I know I texted you guys, like, I wonder if he's going to come out or if Bummer's going to come in. And turns out Bummer did come in. And it's the right moment to also take him out of the game, not leave him in because the pitch count was low, so you can save him for the rest of the weekend. And I know they didn't need him on Saturday, but he got the save on Sunday, so it did help for that matter. And Bummer, I know some people don't like him at the moment because he is kind of a little bit above his average stats at the moment, which isn't too bad, but he has helped us in those high leverage situations, and he's a ground out pitcher. So I understand bringing him in, and he has a tendency of this year walking that leadoff batter, and he did in this situation, but he got an out, and then that second situation was a ground ball that he got that ended up in a double play to end the game. So we didn't, in the extras, we didn't give any runs up, and we won that by one, I think it was 1 run. I can't remember, 1 or 2 runs in that victory on Friday. But overall, I think it was good handling of Hendricks in that situation.
Yeah, man. I understand, and I like how he let him kind of take things by the reins the rest of the week. So, and he finished the game on the week on a high note. So that was impressive to say the least. Also, I want to talk a little bit about Tony. He got a little bit of flack at the start of Saturday's game with that lineup, guys.
Yeah.
Of course, with Goodwin being in there, and then you had Mendick, and it was just kind of like one of those lineups that you looked at it, you're like, man, what is Tony thinking? And then they go out and they just club the hell out of the ball and just knock the Tigers all over that ballpark. So props to Tony for that one. I don't have anything to complain about this week, frankly. Do either you guys have anything that you want to complain about, or were you guys pretty content with Tony this week?
I also want to add on Saturday's game when they were up by 11, 12 runs there, that 13 runs going to the 7th inning or something like that. It was like 15-2 around there. But Tony took his starters out of the game, got the replacements in, and give the guys rest. So no one got hurt, no starters got hurt from being out there. I don't want to say when the game doesn't matter, but in the situation, it's for
low pressure.
You're in, low pressure. You're in control for the most part. Good situation to get the guys out of there and keep the gas on the pedal and keep moving. Kudos to Tony, especially in a situation where I'm not gonna lie, I was second guessing the organization bringing up Goodwin, but comes in that game, gets us 5 ribbies. I speak negative to our questionable, moves in the organization, and we get some positive out of it. So, I gotta tip my cap, give Goodwin some praise because he gave us some history and our team history. So
he sure did, man. Yeah, and the only other thing to mention is, and Vinny addressed this. Apparently, Moncada's under the weather. But we were wondering why that Garcia was batting third tonight, but I guess that kind of explains it. Maybe we'll be validated by the end of the game tonight. Currently still a close one, 3-2.
Garcia.
Go ahead.
Garcia had a double down the left field line, oppo shot, and made it into second, made it to third on a sac fly, and then scored on a wild pitch earlier in tonight's game. So far, it seems like he's trying to do what he can to prove Tony right. So,
hey, man, that's what this team tries to do every day. And I'll tell you what, there's been a lot of success. And, it was a great week all around, guys. But there's only a small amount of dudes that had a rough week. And those are the nominees for our Adam Dud of the week. So let's go ahead and deep dive into that segment.
You suck. You suck.
Stupid. Lousy. No excuse.
What a dud. What a total dud.
So we got a few guys to choose from, gentlemen, in terms of nominees for our Adam Dud, our player that underperformed for the week. But as a whole, I think we would all agree that team defense would probably get a big Adam Dud for the week. Stevenson Zimmerman, what do you think?
Yeah, weirdly enough, team defense has gotten a little bit better with Mendick and Goodwin in there, but all the same, there's just a handful of guys. Anderson airmailing throws, Lurie Garcia not getting his glove all the way down on grounders. Excuse me, just a lot of boneheaded moves that there's no real reason to be making. So, yeah, unfortunately, it happens. Hopefully, it's not a bug that's going to bite him for too long. But we've been kind of saying that all year, so it seems like something we might just have to suck up as Sox fans this year.
Well, we certainly will. But we'll see what happens. But again, team defense, we're gonna have a roller coaster throughout the year, and we just got to do enough to win games. Gonzo, who is your nominee for the Adam Dud of the week?
Yeah, it's also team defense, and again, for everyone in the chat, this is a week that we went 6-1, and when we're trying to find a con of the week, it's got to be some in the games where we lost or some close games of the week, and team defense, especially in that loss. Ball in the dirt, guy gets on, and then when you're trying to turn a double play and you get an overthrow at first, and that leads to 2 runs scoring, that was tough to watch. But also, I don't think it was the same game, but the game after that, Yoan Moncada, I think it was the game after that, Yoan Moncada didn't know how many outs there were, and he allows, instead of turning 2, he gets the out at first and doesn't realize that there's another out to go, and then that ended up hurting the team too, which is kind of uncharacteristic of how great Moncada's been at third with his glove. But yeah, you just got to be focused, and defense is a huge part of the postseason and winning it all, and you got to clean that up, especially versus teams that are over 500. Altogether, we're about to see if this defense can pick it up, and hopefully whenever Robert comes back, we already got Engel to be, if he's going to be rotational or in right field. I'm sure that's going to be fine in the outfield, but when we're missing Madrigal, which I know as a rookie, Madrigal, at least in his first full season as a rookie, he's been spotty with his glove. But
sure,
it started, go back to Tim Anderson. He had it rough early on too in his career with the glove and picked it up. And a guy like Tatis Jr., everyone gives him praise, but he's got like over 15, 20 errors already in the year for the Padres. Like, we got to shore it up. I don't worry about Tim Anderson now, but when we have Garcia and Mendick playing at second, those aren't guys you really want to rely on for a full season.
Man, I don't know about Mendick there. As far as not wanting to rely on him, Mendick has been very solid this week. And
he sure has.
Case in point, literally just while you were talking there, he turned a beautiful, beautiful double play, 4-3. And Anderson standing on the bag, calling him over, and Mendick realizes if I throw it there, it's going to take too long for this exchange. So he runs to the bag, makes this beautiful throw, hits Jose Abreu exactly in the chest. It was just a beautiful play. And that's on top of the plays that he's been making all week since Madrigal went down. It's not that, how do I put this? maybe you can't rely on him for long, but right now his glove is on fire. And I think you gotta, just be happy with it. We're probably going to have him at second base for the rest of the season. So
most likely, unless something else happens.
When I say, that you can't trust on him, I just say, it's not proven over a season that he's proven it to us. Especially with, I know this isn't, I was talking about defense, but to go with his bat, I think you're going to need a rental at second base at the deadline.
We'll see.
But then again, to go back to the defense side of it, we've all seen Yomar Sanchez, guy that for defensively we would question, but then he gets a Gold Glove.
He's a Gold Glover, but he can't hit a ball to save his life.
Right. So it's just one of those situations where we'll have to see. I have a feeling it's going to be rentals that we're going to be seeing at the deadline, and that the Sox are going to be aggressive. But we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, for sure, man. And, let's talk. I'm going to go ahead and talk about my couple duds. I got 2 nominees. I'll go through them relatively quick. I'm, of course, going to talk about Adam Eaton. He just continues to underperform at the plate. 2 for 14 for the week, a measly 142. And over that course, he's only scored 2 runs. There's not a huge need for Adam Eaton. And I think that's a conversation we could have is there a room for him on the team? We can get into that a little bit later. I think it might be a decision for another time, depending on how injuries play out. But of course, right now he's not as needed. But he gets my nominee for the week. And then even though Hendricks had a good pick me up after the blown save, I do want to put Hendricks on the list just because he has 3 blown saves so far this season, guys. Colome had 4 in his entire time with the White Sox. So little alarming, but again, I don't think it was a normal circumstance when you fully warm up, you come back out in the rain. I don't want to hate on him too much for that, but a blown save is a blown save, and he's got to get his stuff together. With that said, his slider has been nasty lately, and I think he's getting it back on track. But those are my 2 Adam duds of the week. I see you shaking your head violently over there, Zim. Final thoughts on those two guys?
No, it's not so much on that. I don't know. I'm real worried about Hendricks. I'm not going to lie. He looks great. He looks great when he looks great. But when he doesn't look great, he's giving up bombs. He's blowing saves. You kind of, I don't know. I don't think that's how he's been his whole career, but I could be wrong. I just wanted to tack on a little bit to the conversation we were having before. Sorry, something just reminded me. Rick Hahn did discuss the training staff and all the injuries that we've been having, right? And that's something that we've talked about. So, I mean, the overall dud, I think, for the season so far is just injuries.
The training staff?
The injury bug has just hit hard. Well, the Sox changed training staffs back in 2018. And ever since then, you've seen an uptick in injuries. And Hahn has basically all but said they're going to look into that. So that was just my final little note. Now, we already talked about Mendick's glove being as hot as it gets lately, but why don't we continue talking about some other guys that are hot in the Put It on the Board segment?
Oh, you queued me up, man. I wasn't ready. I like it.
Oh, man, I'm trying to help you out here.
Man, I'm not used to you queuing me up. I like it. Do it one more time. Introduce it one more time.
All right.
Let's do it live.
Well, in addition to Danny Menton. All right, we're going to try this a third time.
Take 3.
live broadcast, everybody. Isn't it amazing? Live radio. In addition to Danny Mendick's flaming hot glove, let's talk about some other guys that are just red hot in this week's Put It on the Board segment of the week.
Ball hit deep. Way back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes.
Beautifully done, Zim. And here we are talking about those red hot players. It only took 3 times, but we're feeling good about it. Zim, I'll let you start things off, man. Who's someone that got you all fired up this week?
All right, since I already talked about Danny Mendick, I got to talk about Brian Goodwin. We did not expect this guy to come out of nowhere and just do what he's done. I mean, Gonzo and I were discussing, like, why the hell did they bring this guy up and not Sheets? of all people. Like Sheets seems like he's on the right path. I know that Gonzo was talking about Berger as well. But we have our differences there. The bottom line is it was like anybody but Goodwin, right? And then Goodwin comes up, puts up 5 RBIs, makes a hell of a catch tonight, and adds another RBI on. It seems like he's making himself a mainstay in this lineup for the foreseeable future until they're back to full strength. So yeah, absolutely. Brian Goodwin, flaming hot right now. Everything you could ask for out of a player. Talk about a guy stepping up when his number is called. That's exactly what number 18's done for this team.
Absolutely, man. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, Goodwin's 5 RBI are the most by a White Sox player in his debut since 1920.
And
when the RBI stat became a thing.
I do want to point out that is a White Sox player in his debut, not a White Sox rookie in his debut. So that includes guys that have been on the White Sox like Jim Thome, Paul Konerko, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr. There's a name out of the hat to preview a little something we might be talking about later.
That's right. Why don't you cue that up for everybody? We can start getting some answers in the chat.
Right.
We'll get to them later.
Sure. So for the end of the show tonight, we like to talk about some of our favorite things here and there. Tonight, we want to discuss some of our favorite obscure White Sox players, guys that you kind of forget were there. Guys like Ken Griffey Jr. and Kosuke Fukudome, and wasn't one of the Negro brothers with the Sox for a while. Guys like
Something
that.
like that. Manny Ramirez.
There you go. Nick Swisher.
There's oh geez, 30-30. Yikes. But yeah, that's coming up at the end of the show. So if you're in the chat, let us know who is your favorite, most favorite obscure White Sox player of all time. It could be anybody. It could be anybody you want. Could be the janitor. I don't know. Whatever you want it to be. But let's get back on track here. Chris Gonzalez, who do you want to talk about that burned your pants off this week in excitement?
For me, it's Lance Lynn. He's the best.
You sound
ERA.
so excited about it.
Oh man,
man. Who's your favorite? Who really got you fired up this week?
I can't get too excited just because I know he's got 2 starts this week versus 2 hot teams. So I don't know how it's going to be at the end of the week, but yeah. I have faith in him. But last week, he was just
he settled down. He settled down tonight.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, what was he? Our team leader in ERA, and that's better than Rodone.
Yes. Second in
all
of
went 6
baseball.
and gave up 3.
I mean, I said last week when we get to the postseason in October, if it started next week, I would go with Lance Lynn game 1. And I know I saw Santiago in the chat, agreeing with me earlier in the show, but this is a matchup tonight. You probably won't see it in the divisional round because we'll probably face the West Coast first, likely. So it'll probably be either Oakland or Houston for that first round. But we could see Tampa Bay and the Sox for the ALCS. And if that is true, I could see this for game 1. Lance Lynn and Glasnow going at it. Granted, hopefully when that time comes around, we'll have 2 out of the 3 bats that are injured right now. But the lineup's completely different if we got Robert and Eloy in there. We'll see how, more details to come later in the week with Madrigal on his, status with that tear in his hamstring. I think they say it's a grade 3 tear, but we'll see if he's gonna have surgery on it or if he's just gonna allow it to heal naturally. Maybe he'll be there in October. We'll have to wait and see. We can't rule it out just yet, but like I said, Lance Lynn's my player. You put on the board player. He's just been magnificent for us this season.
Yes.
And
that 1.23 ERA he was rocking is the lowest by a White Sox pitcher through 11 games since Eddie Sacote in 1919.
Yeah,
that's just insanity.
And the reason why he's my player this week is in that matchup. That was I believe that was my game of the series matchup last week. Was Lynn and that rookie, and both of them were, they were dealing, and I feel so bad that our defense let us down when he was dealing because he had a 3-1 lead and they blew it for him, and that just sucked. And hopefully hopefully our team can give him some runs this tonight to help him out for what they did last week. But yeah, I mean, he's my put on the board player of the week, and also honorary mention I'm going to give is you guys brought him up in our dud of the week, but Liam Hendricks, for me, I'm going to give him honorary mention just because to go before that Detroit series when we were playing Toronto, I believe, Joe, he had 2 saves in that. Maybe it was just that 1 save, but that's a hot, very good.
He's on fire.
That's a very good Toronto team offensively, and he mowed through them. And we're going to need that for sure come the postseason. And I'm not afraid to talk about October, guys. I'm not afraid to talk about October. I feel really good right now about this team. And
I think we all should feel good. I think this is a big week for the team, and I'm excited to see how they can stick with the big boys. On that note, I want to talk about another big boy who's putting it on the board every single week. And, of course, I'm talking about Carlos. I said it weird. Carlos Rodone. This is a guy that is just bringing it week after week, and he's going hand in hand with him and Lance Lynn have been like fighting each other for being, one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. I got to give it to Carlos. He flirted with a no-hitter again.
Yeah.
This is a guy that just brings it every week, and he just gets me fired up to watch him play every single time. So for me, it's going to Los. This whole team, though, is just firing on all cylinders, and I'm real excited about that. But now we get to the real intriguing part of the show. It's the pick to click. So let's take a look at the current scoreboard. Gonzo's got 5 wins. Zim's got 2. I have 3, and Vinny is still looking for his first. And let's quick review, guys, what we have.
Just spoiler alert, Vinny did not win yet. He still didn't win.
Vinny did not.
There's your spoiler alert. Go ahead with the rest of it, Joe.
It's all right. I actually put the wrong picks up. So now here's the real ones. I had Nick Madrigal, RIP. Oh, my God. I feel so horrible. I think I jinxed him by picking him twice in a row.
Yeah.
Clearly, I have not won. Zim had Mercedes, who had a pretty good week. He's in the running. Gonzo, Tim Anderson. And, of course, Vinny had Yoan Moncada. I'm going to go ahead and pull up these stats quickly at the bottom of the screen. I don't have them loaded yet. So if one of you guys want to do a quick diversion, I will go ahead and get these stats in here.
Well, here's your stat line while you're putting them down. All right, so we got Madrigal for Joe, 2 for 7, 286 average, 1 RBI, and now on the IL. I had Mercedes, who went 5 for 18 with 3 ribbies and 3 runs scored. Let's see, Vinny had Moncada, who went 3 for 21, which was terrible, but did have 2 RBIs and 1 run scored in those. But our final guy here, Timmy Anderson, going 6 for 19 for a 316 average, 3 ribbies, 4 runs scored, and 3 very key stolen bases. So as much as we might not like to concede defeat here, I have to do that and say that my pick, Yermin Mercedes, falls short of Gonzo's pick, Tim Anderson.
Gonzo, how does it feel, man? You just keep on winning. How is it even possible? That's what I want to know. How do you do it? What's your secret?
I know a secret.
I could say that I allowed you to have 3 wins, but I'm not going to say that. I had to give you guys a chance. I can't steal this show. But I'm just happy I won that week because I wasn't too sure going into last week with how things were going during the whole week. But yeah, I was actually really proud to see Joe take some victories after I had a streak going. I was kind of hoping Vinny would have beat you out in one of those weeks, but Vinny is still at 0, and that's sad to see. Maybe he'll get a victory.
To be fair, Vinny has only been on with us, I think, for 3 shows. So with that said, he doesn't have the amount of games. He's like me. I started off slow, and now I'm back in the race. I expect Vinny to do the same thing. So keep your eyes peeled. I have a feeling Vinny's coming for us all. So with that said, Vinny gave me his pick already, but Gonzo, I will let you go first with your pick for the week coming up because, as I mentioned, you are the winner. Wiener, whichever one you want to call it.
Yeah, no, I was really thinking about going to Abreu this week, but I have not been liking what I've been seeing from him lately. And I'm going to jump on the repeat train to go with Timmy this week. And I think he's starting to turn things around from his slump the past 2 weeks. As last week, he was starting to get, light up a little bit. And I'm just going to ride that because I think we got more coming from him. And let's be honest, guys, he's our captain right now. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Tony has talked to the reporters about Timmy being that, Vladimir, being Vlad Molina, from the days with the Cardinals and how, Molina was that captain, that guy, riding off his vibes. He was that true captain and leadership. And that's what he compared to Timmy. And when we have a week where we're going to be playing the best teams in the AL with Tampa and Houston, you're going to have to rely on your captain to carry the team. And I think he's going to prove it, not only on the field with his glove, but on the base paths and at the plate, especially when in the AL, the AL voting, he's third in all-star voting. So now's the time to, get going, light it up, spark that offense, and keep us going.
I love it, man. I love it. So you're going to go with Tim Anderson.
Yes, Tim Anderson. He's my pick to click. Yes. Yep.
All right. And Vinny, since he's at the game, I let him get the second pick. He is going to go with Lance Lynn for the week. He had a pretty solid game today, 6 innings, 3 earned runs. Slow start, but he settled down. So got to respect that pick. Zim, who is your pick to click for the week coming up?
Just real quick, I figured out how Gonzo wins these, and it's because he doesn't take bold shots. He goes with the sure thing, which I'm not criticizing. It's the smart play. You pick Abreu, you pick Anderson. You went off the deep end a few times. I'll give you that. You picked Vaughn once. You picked somebody else, I think, one time. I'm just saying it's a smarter strategy than me trying to go for the off the board. Who's going to be the dark horse this week? It never works out for me.
I picked Vaughn and he epically failed, but he had that shot off of Roldis Chapman in New York. I felt good about that, but then I also chose Lance Lynn that week for the first pitcher chosen with 2 starts, and I really thought I should have won that week, and I had a valid argument. I had a valid argument with going against Abreu that week, but back to you, Zim.
No, that's just my observation. Again, it's a smart strategy. You're not doing the dumbass strategy like I am, picking Billy Hamilton or Lurie Garcia or Brian Goodwin, who's my pick this week. Actually, I'm going with Brian Goodwin. Right, ride the hot bat. The guy has been, 6 RBIs in 2 games or 3 games. Like the guy, he can clearly play. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to hope that he keeps it up. Maybe jacks 1 or 2 here. I don't know.
That could happen. It could happen.
He's fun to watch. Honestly, he's fun to watch. And that right there earns him my pick to click this week.
I like it, man. He's getting bold. And I'm going to go bold too, because I don't want to go with the easy choice of Jose Abreu, because he's carried me a couple weeks already. And I want to get it on my own merits. So my pick to click for today, guys. Oops, and I put it in the wrong format. That's all right. Let's quickly update that. Beautiful. Boom. I am going to go with Carlos Rodone. I think he is going to tear it up, continue his hot streak. And boy, oh boy, I'm looking forward to seeing him pitch. I haven't picked a pitcher yet this year, guys. So this is my first one.
No, I think you're the only one yet left to pick a pitcher.
So this is finally the week. And I know it's a bold choice because we're playing some good teams, but I look for Los to continue to bring the fire, guys. What do you think? Am I crazy? What do you think, Gonzo?
I think you're pretty crazy to pick a pitcher with only 1 start. Like Vinny's got 2 starts this week with Lynn.
Hey, dude. You know what?
But you know what? If you're gonna pick a 1-start, if you're gonna pick a 1-start pitcher, might as well do Rodone. He had a no-hitter earlier in the year, and then he just missed a no-hitter in Detroit. It's a bold move, and he's going to be in Houston, and he's got a tough matchup, but it's a very enjoyable matchup to watch for that Houston game with, or that not the Houston game, but that Houston matchup with Rodone.
Heck yeah, man! I know it's bold. I'm just feeling the power of Los pumping through my veins, man. So that's where I'm at. I'm feeling good about it. Well, we'll see what happens, but it's a lot of interesting picks this week, guys. So quick little recap. I just put it away. Tim Anderson for Gonzo. Vinny is going with Lance Lynn. Zim's going with the red hot Brian Goodwin, who's got a single tonight. And Carlos Rodone. It's going to be my pick. I think Los is going to keep the fire burning. So how about that, guys? We covered a lot of stuff in these couple segments, but what do we got to talk about, Gonzo? What's coming up? There's a segment. I can't remember the name of it. Why don't you cue it up for us? Because I think you probably know the name of it.
Yeah, the segment you were looking for is White Sox Weekly. And that...
Yes,
Chet,
it was White Sox Weekly, and I cut you off with it.
Yeah, you did. It's all good, though. Chet, that is what we call White Sox Weekly, because we're going to deep dive right into our matchups this week. And like we've been harping this whole show, this is a huge week for White Sox baseball because we're playing the division-leading Tampa Bay Rays this week with another 4-game series versus Houston, and they're up there in the division in the West fighting for it with the Oakland A's. So huge week. We got 3 games Monday through Wednesday versus Tampa at home, and then we have to go on the way for 4 games Thursday through Sunday versus Houston. And it looks like I got a notification that the Rays hit a solo home run. Hate to see that. But our 3 games, as you can see tonight, game 1, Lance Lynn, Tyler Glasnow. Hell of a pitching matchup. Both these guys are probably going to be Cy Young candidates by the end of the year. And in a matchup where I brought up earlier, Makata's out, and that leaves Abreu very vulnerable in the lineup. And I didn't really think, that we were going to do much. But if we put up, what was it, 2 runs earlier in the game versus Glasnow, I didn't see that coming. So I'm glad that we got some runs. But game 1 was really, really tough. And game 2 is going to be Dallas Keuchel versus McCallahan, who's a rookie. The southpaw there is on the screen that you see there. He's been, iffy as a rookie. He had some really good starts, some really terrible starts. That's a matchup that I like to favor Dallas. But Dallas is going to have to bring his A game because that Tampa lineup offensively is no joke. As you can see for, Lance Lynn giving up 3 runs in this matchup. So, yeah, between those 2 games, I like the Sox splitting these first 2. And then for the rubber match on Wednesday, we got Giolito and Yarbo. I don't know how to pronounce it right, but that's at least a likely projection. Sox haven't updated yet, but if the Rays stay true to rotation, it's going to be Yarbo, the southpaw lefty, who's also one of those guys where I think we like to say we bang up the lefties, but those guys like, Yarbo, he's one of those soft throwing lefties that we seem to struggle against. But maybe in a lineup where, we got some soft contact hitters in the bottom of our order, maybe they can take advantage of that soft throwing lefty. And I am actually going to favor the Sox in game 3 with Gio on the mound. So I like the Sox. I like the Sox taking 2 out of 3 this week. And then that leads us to our series with Houston at, last 4 games of the week. And their first game on Thursday is looking like Dylan Cease and Yoelqui. This is going to be a very interesting game. No, I'm going to give you guys my chat just so you know. I'm going to give you guys the projected pitchers. It's at least going to look like that for the Tampa Bay series, probably likely, but the back half of the week, it's interesting because sometimes they can flip-flop some guys around just because they have the advantage of the rest days. So just keep that in mind because I'm going to give you at least the projected pitchers. Dylan Cease, Yoelqui. That is my game of the series, very, very first game. And also that game of the series in the Tampa Bay series was tonight's matchup, of course. But that first game in Houston, Cease, Yoelqui, that's going to be a very fun matchup for us to watch. Game 2 is going to be likely Rodone versus Garcia. Garcia is a promising rookie arm, righty. This is going to be a tough matchup if it is Rodone going up against him. And this is where Joe's pick to click to this week is going to come into picture likely. So going to game 3. Game 3 is going to be likely Lynn versus Valdez. Another very hot pitcher that we saw on their run and their championship run with Valdez. Very, very good arm to go with our ace right now, basically, in Lance Lynn. And to end the week, it's looking like Keuchel in his second start versus McCullers. If McCullers is going to come off the DL.
Should be back from the IL, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting matchup coming off the DL. Just by the pitching matchups, when I broke this down, I liked basically, I think that first game, if I had to project things, I think Cease is going to have a good game, but I think that's going to be a close game where Houston takes us in a bullpen game there. But game 2 with Rodone, I like Rodone. Same with game 3 with Lynn. But with that Keuchel McCullers matchup, I'm going to give it to Houston. So I see them splitting that series at 2. But that's how I see at least the week is going. And if I'm going to highlight any offensive players in this Tampa Bay series, look out for Austin Meadows. He's an interesting guy because he's the Rays are filled with their outfield. And he's also a guy that he's a designated hitter for them, just with their whole rotation. But he had a home run tonight off Lance Lynn for that to start the game. He sparked their offense with that 2-run home run, and he has a .233 batting average, at least going into tonight's game, with 14 home runs, 48 ribbies. That's basically 15 home runs with tonight with 50 ribbies. And then for the Houston series, look out for Gurriel. We saw his brother with the Toronto series, but his older brother is quite the player. He has a .323 batting average, 10 home runs, 47 ribbies right now for Houston. So those are the guys I like to spotlight for this week.
I love it, man. It's gotta get your blood pumping a little bit to talk about this kind of stuff because this is as good as it gets in baseball, folks. And I think we are all spoiled for the quality of baseball that we're getting right now in the city of Chicago, on both sides of town, which is crazy for me to even say. I would have never thought I'd be saying that a couple weeks ago, but the Cubs continue to be a contender, and Sox Cubs this year is going to be absolutely dynamite. Spoiler alert, Zim and I are going to catch a Cubs Sox game in August down at Guaranteed Rate, man. How's it feel, Zim, to be coming back to Chicago to see the boys?
Ask me again August 24th.
The week before, huh?
There is so much time between now and then, Joe. We all know how quickly things can change, especially over this past year. So, I'm very, very excited. I've only been to Guaranteed Rate once. It was still the cell back then. So I'm real excited to go again. I don't know, man. I don't know. Anything can happen between now and then.
Miracles happen. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. That was a horrible impersonation. It's one of the few that I cannot do. But speaking of not, that's not a good segue at all. I'm not even going to say that out loud. But let's move on with the rest of our show. And our big last segment's always the hot topic conversation in what we call the guaranteed take. So, gentlemen, can Carlos Rodone stay healthy for the majority or all of the season and win a Cy Young award? Chris Gonzalez, it's the hot topic of the week. There's a lot of things that can be said about this, but I'm going to let you lead it off.
Yeah, I hate to be the Debbie Downer. For as amazing as Rodone has been, he's had quite the first half of the season so far. And I'll be quite honest, if anyone in the chat has read my articles from the end of last season, I'll be honest, I put it in my projection for this year that he wasn't going to be a guy that was going to make this team. I didn't even think that we are going to get him back in arbitration, if I was being completely honest. And not only has he proved himself, but he's proved all the haters out there wrong. Not saying that I was a hater. I just was looking at things realistically with some logic here. But he turned around, and as a first pick from our recent history, or first round pick of our recent history, I love to see him, have that success, turn that confidence around and control, and he's been lighting it up. And quite frankly, he's going to give Hahn a tough decision to make at the end of the year, especially with Rodone having Boris as an agent. He's going to be testing free agency. That's at least the track record. Granted, Strasburg, it wasn't right. It wasn't same for him. But this is a different situation with Rodone just because of his injury history. And to go back to this question, staying healthy. That's what I believe a month ago I said that's kind of what he has to prove to go that full season. And I'm just going to go with the law of averages here, and basically law of not of averages, but law of attrition, and go that he's going to have a difficult time. I hate saying that. I just see it forthcoming, but hopefully that's not the case, and that he does stay healthy, because we absolutely need. Well, he was our fifth, arm in that rotation. So if our fifth arm in that rotation is putting up Cy Young numbers, you love to see it.
Great problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, but I really hope I'm wrong. And then as far as Cy Young goes, you're talking to a co-host that absolutely loved Chris Sale, and I saw Chris Sale get ripped out of at least 2 Cy Youngs while he was in a White Sox uniform. I know a lot of people can't stand Chris Sale because of ripping up the jerseys or whatnot, but as far as on the mound goes, we've seen the bias from the national media going into that voting. I don't think Rodone's going to get the Cy Young just because of that in itself. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully the media gives us some praise and gives us some, votes on the voting side of it as well. But just for those reasons, I'm going to say no to both of those questions.
All right, Gonzo, I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree or not. I'm going to take some time to decide, but Stevenson Zimmerman, you don't even think he's going to be the Cy Young winner on the White Sox, the best pitcher. Who's that? Who gets that title, Zim?
Oh no, I mean he's certainly in a race with his own teammate Lance Lynn right now. And let's be honest, this is something we kind of, to an extent, saw coming before the season started. The White Sox had 3 of the top 7 finishers for the Cy Young voting coming into the season, and then Carlos Rodone did what he did in spring training. And we were talking about him as, before the season started, as, is this guy the real deal? Is this actually the season he puts it together? And so far it seems like it is. And if he can put this season together the way he has, if he can stay healthy, there's no reason that he can't go for a Cy Young. Now, can he stay healthy? Well, that's the question for every single guy on this team right now. It seems like the injury bug has bitten this team hard this year. And it seems to be almost like it's targeting their biggest contributors. So hopefully Rodone stays as the number 2 contributor so that he doesn't get bit by it. And Lance Lynn continues to just be a this might not be the most family friendly way to put it, but just a balls out badass, and won't get hurt because of that. So it's just, yeah, I think he certainly can, but he's got to beat out his own teammate to do it. And is that going to happen? Like, I honestly, I don't know, especially because he's got another one of his teammates nipping at his heels with Dylan Cease coming up.
You're certainly right. And this, I'll tell you what, this team is just firing on all cylinders, man. There's so many guys that can get you every single week. It's unreal. I mean, for me, I have a hard time picking between the two who I think is going to, be the best, because these guys bring it every single week. I like more what I'm seeing out of Lance Lynn. I'm not going to lie. But I do think there is a possibility that those could be like, both of these guys could get a lot of votes for the Cy Young. I hope it comes to the South Side, man. We're long overdue. And Gonzo, I'm gonna give you a lot of credit, Gonzo, because I'm gonna move you back to the forefront. Before the season started, you told me that Lance Lynn was going to be the second best pitcher on the White Sox. And I didn't have him there. I thought Dallas Keuchel was going to be that guy. And you've been telling me all offseason long about Lance Lynn. Why don't you talk a little bit about your prediction and, what you expect from him the rest of the way?
Yeah, and it's right. I appreciate that, Joe, getting that, acknowledgement from you. But if I'm being completely honest with you, he's a lot better than I even anticipated. For our, filling in those shoes for our Sox as being that veteran arm, that reliable arm to, like, just look up his trend of eating innings. He's a guy that eats 200 innings the past 5 years. And with how good our bullpen is, I just felt like he was going to be that pitcher for us that, keeps the bullpen live and thriving. And if this continues, that's exactly what he's doing. And I said second best, but then what you've been hearing me for the past month is I'm telling you he's our best arm right now. And I can only see that continuing going into October. Now, granted, I don't know what's going to look like in a couple months here, but if this is going as it is right now, I definitely see Lance Lynn as that ace. And that's crazy to say because we thought that Giolito was going to be that ace for us. And I'm not saying that he isn't at the moment or will be, but he's starting to pick it up too the last couple of weeks here. But that's a good problem to have if you got a guy like Giolito fighting with him and Rodone as our, three-headed horse here. And, with what Zim was saying, you also have guys like Kopech and Crochet. Granted, I think we're going to continue to use them in high leverage situations, at least for this season.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be an interesting situation going for the short term of the next, 2 seasons at least, of how are they going to break into our rotation? Are you going to have to let Rodone go and potentially let Lynn go if you're not going to resign him? I can see both of them back. If I'm being honest, I really hoped that Dallas Keuchel only had one less year in his contract, so that would kind of help figuring out the rotation, because he's getting older and he still has, I think, 3 years left on his deal. And it's interesting because I'd be completely fine with Kopech and Crochet coming in, but you got to make room, and this is going to be it's a good problem to have. Yeah. But I really hope that we can sign Lynn back because he's not showing any, signs of slowing down. And he's a reliable arm that, our manager, our Hall of Fame manager, relies on from their prior experience together, and that included their championship experience together. So I feel really good about Lance Lynn.
Dude, man, I'm feeling good too. I know this team as a whole, everyone's excited, and we're all excited. And we've covered so much ground in this show tonight, guys. But before we get out of here, we always like to talk about something fun and lighthearted at the end of the show. Our favorite something. And today we tried to get it a little outside of the box. So we're going to talk about our favorite obscure White Sox players of all time. It could be somebody that played for the Sox for half a season. Maybe they played for a long time and you think they're obscure. We're going to go through ours because we have a lot to talk about. And, I'm going to go ahead and lead off with mine. All right, guys, this is an obscure one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the video. I'm talking about Herbert the Milkman Perry. Got Herbert the Milkman. That's right. He played for the White Sox only for 1 year. And I believe, let me see if that was 2000 to 2001. And, this is just a guy. I mean, he played with all these great guys. I mean, he played third base. He was at the bottom of the lineup. But look at those guys with him. He's got Durham, Valentin, Thomas, Ordonez, Carlos Lee, Konerko. I mean, this was a guy that was just a fan favorite. I got to see if I can get to a video of him quickly. There he is. The Milkman Perry. This is just a guy that he hustled it out every single game. Hawk Harrelson loved him. There's Maglio Ordonez, and there's the Milkman. Oh, that's Paul Konerko. Jeez. Of course, I picked up the wrong clip, but that's he's in here somewhere. That was Paulie. That's a young Paulie. Look at that. Let me see if I can pull up the Milkman. There he is.
No problem with watching Paulie swing, all right? Watching Paul Konerko swing the bat is a treat for everybody, so thank you, Joe.
There he is. This is not Paul Konerko. This is Herbert Perry. He was a third baseman for the White Sox. And let's just see. I love his swing. Let's see if I can get him swinging. Look at that. He had a good year that year. At this point in the season, he was 296, 11 homers, 58 RBI. I mean, this is a guy that brought it when he played for the Sox. I'd like to see if I could get a hit here. Of course, I'm going to fast forward until I find it. Watch. Oh, and he strikes out here. Awesome.
This game.
Well, that's all right.
This game was at the Metrodome, and thank you for reminding us, Joe, about what a god-awful venue that was.
Yes, it certainly was. And he flew out. He went foul. But anyway, I'm going to stop sharing the screen here. But I loved Herbert Perry. He was one of my favorite White Sox obscure players because this is a dude that just, he brought it every day. And his nickname was the best. He was the Milkman before Melky came to town. It was Herbert, the Milkman Perry. This guy is just, to me, he was a White Sox legend, even though he only played for 1 year. But he played for the Indians, the Devil Rays, the White Sox, and the Texas Rangers. And he was just an all-around cool dude. So I was a fan. He had a career batting average, guys, of 272. So that's pretty solid. A little better than average. And I'm going to go with the Milkman. So I'll let you guys take it away. Chris Gonzalez, who do you have as your obscure White Sox player?
My obscure Sox player is going to be Shingo Takatsu. And if you don't remember Shingo was a righty, kind of like semi-submarine pitcher. What I remember most when I was a young lad, a little kid, was that gong that they just lit it up every single time he came out from the bullpen. You just hear that dong,
bong. I remember, man.
And, oh gosh, that got me so hyped to watch this this guy come out and just shut them down. And sadly for Shingo, he started to unravel in 2005, the year that they won that World Series championship, and he went from the majors all the way into the minors, and then worse than that. But poor Shingo, he gave us some pretty excellent seasons before 2005, and then he still gets a ring out of it, even though he fell apart in 2005 as a closer for us. But he was my most obscure player that I recall.
Yeah, and Gonzo, this is actually footage from his first save. So I'm going to fast forward to see if we can get towards his last out. And if you can see at the top of the screen, his nickname was Mr. Zero. You remember that?
I actually don't even remember him having that nickname. But that's
they called him Mr. Zero. Yeah, they called him Mr. Zero. I remember selling all the T-shirts. If you guys remember, I used to work in the park. So Shingo was a big commodity back then. Sold a lot of T-shirts. And we get to see him get his first save here. Let me see if I can quickly fast forward to that last out.
I just remember enjoying how quickly he worked. He came up in an era when Japanese pitchers used to have a lot of movement and slow deliveries, and they kind of hang with their foot in the air for a second before they threw the ball. I think Hideo Nomo was in part to blame for that, but yeah, we're seeing the fireworks go off after Takatsu's first save there, and he is just elated. And I was so, like I said, just so happy that he wasn't one of those guys that took his time on the mound.
Yeah, he had Burley-itis, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
Someone told me yesterday at a party that when Burley pitched, he left his car running during the game.
Imagine a game where Burley pitched until the 8th and then Takatsu comes in the 9th. Like, you're out of there. Bing, bang, boom. But I mean, he was just a no-nonsense guy, just like Burley in that sense where, he took his sign. It wasn't shake off. It wasn't nod and accept. It was take the sign, stand up, throw the ball. And it was about that fast.
Yeah, Shingo, he's probably one of my, early on, one of my favorite Japanese players. But actually, to go along that little trend there, my first player jersey that I got was Tadahito Iguchi, the second baseman.
Good one.
He's another Japanese player that he kind of stole my heart. That contact hitter, but more importantly, with his glove, such a great player. And from there, my fandom just skyrocketed after that. But Tadahito, he's my first, favorite player on the Sox.
Dude, that's awesome, man. A lot of great guys we're talking about here. A lot of throwback names. How about it, Zim? Why don't you talk a little bit about your White Sox favorite obscure player?
Yeah, I don't think he's quite as obscure as both of your guys, but he is a guy that I think a lot of people forget about, and that's Carlos Quentin. Carlos Quentin played probably his 4 best seasons of baseball with the White Sox, which turned into a massive deal. He signed with the San Diego Padres, and then he kind of just faded away into the oblivion out of nowhere. But I mean, his first season with the White Sox, 36 homers, 100 RBIs. And that was on a team where I think they had 3 or 4 different players that had 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. I mean, that was just a powerhouse team and they were fun to watch. The thing I remember about him is he helped me with my swing, not, personally or anything, but, I started watching him at a time in my life when I was having trouble with my swing. And he does something very interesting with his back foot when he swings the ball that not a lot of people notice. And, the first thing you're kind of taught is squish the bug. And he doesn't really
squish the bug.
That. He doesn't really do that. He sort of just picks up his back foot if you watch. And some of these, he almost lays it down flat, like on the inside of his foot. And he had a very different swing. His step was very small. I don't know. He just always kind of stuck with me as a guy that, I thought was very, very underrated, particularly when he was with the White Sox. And especially considering he came in after guys like Carlos Lee and Scott Podsednik, who were huge contributors for that club.
Yeah, man. He had some massive games, man. I remember Quentin Fever. I mean, this is a guy that I sold so many T-shirts for too. Yeah. And
talk about
he was a big name.
His face was everywhere for like a season or two. And then by 2015, everyone was like, Carlos something with a Q. I don't remember. Quintana? No, that's that pitcher.
Yeah. What's his name? Esteban Loaiza, I think of it as another runner-up name.
Esteban Loaiza, the All-Star Game starter one year. And then he got caught just recently with like a crap load of drugs, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like doing a drug cartel.
Yeah. What a story. What a story there.
It definitely is a weird story. And for those of you who don't remember what he looks like, there he is. Good old Esteban. I mean, this is a guy that was a Cy Young candidate, and he ended up going to jail for drug cartel stuff. I mean, that's crazy.
He has that look of just I don't know how else to explain it. It's so perfectly early 2000s,
Yeah, he also looks kind of like he would be in a drug cartel, right?
I wasn't gonna say it, but how did we not know?
I mean, with that goatee, how do you not know? I mean, it looks like a character out of Narcos, right? But no, all jokes aside, Esteban had some killer seasons in the South Side, and then he went on to the Yankees, and he had a great career. It just it's unfortunate that never like to see anybody do things like that and then have to be put away for such a long time. So sad story, but Esteban's another obscure White Sox player. There's a lot, and the Sox are now down 5-2, guys. So not a great outcome right now for the Sox, but oh yeah, we're in the top of the ninth, so we're down to our last couple bullets here, boys. We'll see if they can pick it up in the bottom of the ninth. But real quick, I want to highlight some of the chat rooms, most famous obscure White Sox players, and here's a good one from our buddy Travis, Maglio Ordonez. He was a staple on the South Side for a long time, and I'm sure we could probably all do the chant whenever you're ready.
No.
3, 2, 1. Oh,
Maglio. Also,
keep singing, Gonzo. I love it.
Also, he helped Detroit out, I believe, in that championship, if I remember right.
Sure did, yeah. He was a major contributor to that World Series team.
Yeah,
he haunted us a lot.
Yeah, he did.
Maglio, good old Maglio. Another thing with Maglio, if you ever notice when he's batting, it's a dude that never stops squinting. Like he's just repetitively just blinking.
I think he needed contact lenses.
I don't know what was up with him, but he just kept blinking and he wouldn't stop blinking. And it was just kind of ridiculous when like you can just watch it at the plate and it's like, how the heck did he, does he hit the ball when he's just like constantly blinking and, one click blink and the ball's already in the catcher's mitt. So like, it was unbelievable. Granted, Burley hit home run with his eyes closed. So I guess it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that one was an accident. Maglio was a little bit more consistent than that.
Maglio was consistent. Yeah. That's what matters most, kids.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've had a great show. Before we get out of here, there's a couple of notes I want to touch on before we get to shout-outs. But huge reminder for everybody out there, single game tickets go on sale for full capacity games tomorrow at noon Central Time. That's right, full capacity at Guaranteed Rate Field resumes on June 25th, where Gonzo and myself will be celebrating reopening day or opening day part 2, as a lot of people are calling it. Gonzo and I are going to be sitting in section 154. If you're going to be there, shoot us a note on Twitter. We'll grab a beer with you, grab a dog, take a picture. I don't know who would want a picture with us, but if you do, then by all means, come take a picture. And then, of course, we'd have to give a huge shout-out to our co-host, Vinny Parisi. Of course, he gave us a great live report from the stadium tonight. And for those of you who don't know, he's going to be a full-time member of the South Burbs Hitmen starting next week. So congrats to Vinny. We love how you fit in with us. We're going to have some great conversation the rest of the way. And then it's a great time to mention our guest next week, and we have a good one, guys. James Fagan from The Athletic, covers the White Sox for The Athletic, is going to be joining us to talk White Sox baseball. Next Monday is an off day for the Sox, so we're blessed to be able to have James on the show with us. That's going to be a great one. You do not want to miss that one. Boys, how excited are you to talk with James Fagan?
Oh, very. I don't know what else to say other than that. He's, we've had a slew of great guests, and he's another one of the guys on the Sox beat. So it'll be exciting to get a chance to talk to somebody that's so high profile and can give us answers to a lot of questions that I'm sure we're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. And I also want to touch on another obscure player real quick from our buddy Travis, Jose Canseco. Yeah, there's a couple weird ones, man. I had to pull that one up. I just saw it. Yeah, Bo Jackson. There's a million of them. But anyway, getting back to things, James Fagan's going to be a great guest. I know all 4 of us next week are looking forward to it. So I cannot wait for that. And now we've reached the shout-out portion of our show. Before we get out of here, we're a little over the 2-hour mark. Stevenson Zimmerman, why don't you start things off?
All right. Shout outs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, shout out to all of our viewers, everybody watching. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad to be back. Shout out to you, Joe, for hooking me up with the awesome ticket to, hopefully go see the Cubs and Sox play. But, I'm not going to hold my breath yet. We're getting there, but everything's booked up for that trip. So hopefully that goes through and we'll be out there. And just a big shout out to all of our guests that we've had recently and the, handful that we've got booked upcoming as well. It's been super fun to get to do such an interesting podcast. Very easy for these to end up being boring, but thank you to all of our guests and to my co-hosts as well.
Appreciate it, man. And for those of you wondering, Zim and I will be attending the Saturday, August 28th, Sox first Cub game at Guaranteed Rate Field, sitting in section 154. It's going to be a blast. Cannot wait for that. It can't come soon enough. Chris Gonzalez, you and I are catching the game on June 25th, the first game at 100% capacity. So we're, of course, going to meet up with some of our listeners and just get a full house on the south side. Chris Gonzalez, any last-minute shout-outs before we burn this place down?
Yeah, before I get to shout-outs here, two things. One, please, everyone in the chat, Google MLB All-Star vote. Vote our guys from the south side to Denver, please.
Yes, please.
That's first and foremost. Second, it's not if you're going to the game on June 25th. Please buy tickets to go to the game on June 25th and be there because it's going to be an amazing atmosphere, 100% with how this team is going and just everything in general, momentum. It's going to be such an atmosphere. It's like an atmosphere you want to go to, like the United Center when the Blackhawks during their dynasty with, national anthem, Chelsea Dagger going. Sox Park lively right now with how it is with the strobe lights and the home runs. It's 100% capacity, and it's also firework night. And I think the first 10,000 fans get a hat as well. And also the White Sox are going to be wearing their City Connect jerseys for that game as well. And it's firework night. It's firework night as well, too. So this is going to be a huge game on the 25th. You might see me and Joe also before the game at Cork and Carry. It's going to be that or Shy Sox Bar and Grill. We haven't decided yet, but when we do, we'll let you guys know where we're going, and it's going to be a eventful night. And for my shout-outs, I'm going to shout out my girlfriend. She always watches the shows and gives me all the support, and I love her, absolutely love her. And my second shout-out, I'm going to shout out Chris Jackal. I saw him in the chat. He's a guy that first time that I've at least seen him in our chat, and I love to see him giving us a little viewing and following our White Sox content, and I saw him in the chat tonight. So shout out to you, Chris Jackal. Love to see you in the chat, and everyone else in the chat that like Travis and Santiago, just everyone I see you getting popped up here. I love you guys. Love the support. Thank you and foremost.
Appreciate it, Gonzo. Love it, man. I'm going to lead things off and give a shout out to you, Gonzo. Happy birthday, man. 2 days ago was your birthday. He just turned 17 years old. So, no, I'm just kidding. How old are you for real, Gonzo?
Oh, man. So I just went through the year of Jim told me 25, and now I start the year of 26. I had an absolutely great year for 25, and I can't wait to see what year of 26 is. I'm going to have to Google numbers for 26 because I have no clue who actually wore the number 26 besides Le'Veon Bell. But,
right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how much excited I can get for year 26, to be honest with you. So, well,
man, huge shout out to you. Hope you had a happy birthday. Of course, massive shout out to my wife and my dog, Maverick. I love you guys. And then a huge shout out to tonight's guest, Phil Selig from CubaDugout.com. He absolutely brought the Cuban knowledge, and I'm excited to see some of his photos. Maybe coming on baseball cards. If you haven't checked out his stuff, check him out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the whole shebang. And the Sox lost. Thanks for the great news. 5-2. Not our best effort. We got to come back and get him again tomorrow. But on that note, we've gotten to the end of the show. Absolute great stuff, guys. Love talking baseball with you. As I mentioned, we will be back next week with James Fagan from The Athletic, who covers the White Sox. Boy, oh boy, it's going to be a great show. And make sure you head over to deepdishtees.com. You can get yourself some South Burbs Hitmen swag. It's as simple as if I could pull up the URL. Did I lose it already? There you go. Go to get your South Burbs Hitmen swag, deepdishtees.com/barroom. You can also get a lot of merchandise from all the other great shows on the network, including the Friendly Confines, Buffon 55, Bear Football, the Mike North Advantage. The possibilities are endless. Tons of great content on this network. So make sure you head over there. It helps support the network. It helps support us. And most of all, it just keeps this show coming back week after week for you. So if you're tuning in, we appreciate you. Like I said, tune in next week for James Fagan from The Athletic. For the South Burbs Hitmen, I am Joe Mandel. That's Chris Gonzalez. And below me, that's Stevenson Zimmerman. We will catch you guys next week. We're going to go back and get the Rays tomorrow, guys. That's all we're going to do. So let's go White Sox. Let's kick some butt the rest of the week. And hopefully we have a lot to talk about next time. So we'll see you guys next week. Go White Sox.